Well, good Monday evening. I hope you all had a great rest of your weekend. I hope you all had a great Monday. Well, it's going to be an active week as far as severe weather goes, or actually, as weather goes. We're going to have winter weather. We have winter weather, severe weather, flood and rains. We have it all this week. So let's get right to it here, and I'm actually going to show you what's going on out into the Midwest here, or excuse me, out into the plains here. Um, this is kind of interesting stuff. We have a severe thunderstorm watch into portions of western Colorado, or excuse me, eastern Colorado, and we have a winter storm warning in effect in these same areas, and a tornado warning into some of these areas. Very interesting stuff going on out into Colorado today. These temperatures today reached near 70 degrees. Okay. And, yeah. We're going to be talking about snow. So this is kind of an interesting event here. Definitely something that us weather enthusiasts are really kind of excited about, and it's kind of getting us kind of a little bit on the excited side here. Denver under a winter storm warning. Blizzard warnings just south of Denver. Colorado Springs is under a blizzard warning. Pueblo, Colorado under a winter storm warning. Or excuse me, blizzard warning. Blizzard warning, Colorado Springs. Excuse me. Moving to the north into Cheyenne. It's going to be pretty interesting stuff here that's going to be happening out in here. And this is a map that was put out by the National Weather Service in Cheyenne, Wyoming. You can see 12 to 24 inches into some of these areas, 12 to 16 into some of these areas. I mean, this is a major winter storm. Wouldn't be surprised if a few areas in here picked up close to 30 to 36 inches of snow. It's going to be a pretty nasty event here. So here's our radar imagery, and we're showing you the radar imagery here in the Northeast, and you can see there is an area of rains today, and it's kind of moving through. And basically, you can sort of see we have some heavier rains coming through. We also have a batch of, or a little bit of a line of severe thunderstorms or strong thunderstorms moving through Indiana, Illinois, and portions of Ohio. Again, scattered rain showers. This is actually going to kind of move like this over portions of northern New England in the morning hours, and this could give southern New England, northern New York the potentials for some rain. Moving out into the Midwest, here is our snow, and just look at this stuff. I mean, what's actually happening here is some of these thunderstorms, what's happening here is they're kind of getting tucked into this area of snow, and it's kind of blowing these snow bands up, and it's just giving these folks in here potentials to see close to 2 to 3 inches an hour. So this is some pretty nasty stuff in here, even higher amounts. The snow will eventually start into Denver, so don't worry. You guys will be getting your turn. And yeah, that's basically what's going on. So we have all of this stuff happening. We have a brief little area of scattered showers moving through portions of Louisiana tonight. But for the most part, most of this stuff won't be actually happening until this low gets mainly into Colorado. Here is where our low pressure system is right now. It's really over Utah and northern portions of Arizona. Basically, what's going to happen here is this low is going to kind of move here. This is going to become a La Junta low over La Junta, Colorado. And basically, what's going to happen from there is this thing is going to ride through the Central Plains into Ohio. Now, it doesn't really matter what happens once it gets to Ohio, because either way, it's going to kind of produce a similar solution for folks who live into your major cities and even into most areas of interior New England. We'll see a very similar solution. it's really going to make the difference of whether we're going to see a warm rain if it moves up like this, or a cold and chilly and raw rain if it kind of, if we get a little bit of a transfer to the coast and kind of moves up like this. And it would give these folks in the Berkshires and to your higher elevations of northern New England a greater chance of seeing the potentials for some winter weather. All right. So basically, that's what we're going to have to sort of watch out for as we move along. And here's that little disturbance. All right. That's kind of bringing some showers and some cloudy weather through the region here. So basically, that's the situation. Tomorrow, we're really watching the southern plains for the potentials of a severe weather outbreak. Now, again, this is going to be a severe weather outbreak, and again, it should be taken seriously. But let me tell you something, folks. This is not going to be a historical severe weather outbreak by any means. We have seen scenarios like this before. It's just because it's the first severe weather event of the year. Everybody's kind of getting, like, a little bit bent out of shape here. But yes, there will be some wedge tornadoes. There could be maybe a potential possible EF4 tornado. But for the most part, we'll be seeing a lot of EF2s and EF3 tornadoes moving through the region. But I don't anticipate anything that's like historical. All right. And basically there is I believe a slight risk out by the SPC, either a slight or a moderate risk. I believe it's a slight risk. And again, we also have a slight risk back out in here for later on in the week, when we could be talking about still some isolated squall lines coming in here, or actually a squall line moving through, coming in here later on in the week. Okay, let's look at our models here, and basically let's look at the NAM. And for the most part, the NAM is not too bad. That's the Northeast. Sorry about that. So again, here is our little system that's moving through Colorado, and basically here's where it is today. Here's our little La Junta low coming in here and through, coming down in here tomorrow. So basically this is tomorrow afternoon that we're seeing this. We have snow also spreading out into the Dakotas and into portions of Minnesota. And basically we have a nice, warm, comfy day tomorrow here into the Northeast. It's going to be nice. Temperatures into some areas reaching near 80 degrees. A lot of 70s tomorrow. Here's our storms starting to fire up into portions of the Great Plains. Get ready for that. That's going to be a interesting situation. Nice, warm, juicy air. And we'll actually show you the jet stream winds according to the NAM as well. I do want to show you that. Let's see here. Where are they? Sorry about this. Here we go. Alright, so basically this will give you a good understanding of what's going on in the upper levels of the atmosphere. What you really want to look at is what we call a difluent flow. Basically, winds that are spreading out in different directions in the upper levels of the atmosphere. Basically, you can also call that shear, is what you want to look at. And basically, as we work our way on in through Tuesday, okay, notice Missouri is the real target here, because notice how you have winds moving into this direction, so you can sort of see that difluent flow, especially over Missouri, according to the NAM, and that's on Tuesday. And but basically things get really active, particularly Wednesday night, and this is kind of interesting. Basically, you can see this difluent flow really in charge here. Basically, right over these areas. This is pretty significant stuff out into here. So I would call for some pretty nasty tornadoes. Not the worst, but it's still a pretty nasty tornado situation. um, for those folks out into those areas. And you can see our diffluent flow that we have here on Wednesday. Things are quite nasty. And then you can also see that that kind of works its way eastward. And again, for the most part, our diffluent flow kind of gets a little less as this system moves eastward. There could be a few isolated tornadoes over Kentucky, but for the most part, these tornadoes will weaken as they work their way eastward. And basically, here goes our front. You can see a nice little squall line working its way to the east. And again, this will be a pretty nasty batch of storms, mainly significant winds and things like that as this line moves eastward. So that's the NAM. Looking at the GFS here, we'll show you the basic surface map, and we'll also show you those jet stream winds for those people who really want to know what's going on with this severe weather event. And basically, here is our little low pressure system that's starting to form out in La Junta, Colorado. You can see that starting to form right in here. And here we go. You can sort of see things get really active tomorrow evening. All right, we're going to look at that flow here, and just look at that flow. I mean, you can really see that these winds are really spreading out in all different directions in the upper levels of the atmosphere. When you see that, that's really, you know severe weather is on the way. And you can see that it just gets even worse into central Missouri. I mean, you can really see these winds. I mean, they're going in all different directions. I mean, things are just really going out all over the place here. So you can see a nice squall line, but again, also some tornadoes out ahead of this thing. Okay, and again, you can see that there could be some tornadic activity potentially into southern portions of Illinois as well. That's what we would also be watching. And again, this thing moves to the east, and here's our low pressure system. Okay, we get some pretty hefty amounts of precip with this into portions of New York, starting to spread out into portions of southern New England, and you can see that we get some pretty hefty rains and maybe even some thunder coming in here on Friday afternoon. And again, for the most part, I mean, things stay generally the same. I mean, we get ups and downs here. It's generally a very fluctuating period here, so basically it's not going to stay stable as far as temperatures go. Looking at the Euro finally, we'll look at the general surface map, and then we'll also look even at the jet stream winds. So and we'll also look at something called CAPE, and basically CAPE is basically instability. How good is the instability in the upper levels of the atmosphere for severe weather? Here's our little La Junta low starting to form. And basically you can see there it goes. Okay, we get some nice snows happening into portions of the Great Plains. We get a nice line starting to form out into the Midwest. Now let's look at the flow here and also the CAPE values. And look at these CAPE values. This is instability, and notice how this instability is really nice, particularly into the southern plains. So that's why severe weather is definitely a strong possibility, especially Wednesday morning. And again, looking to see if there's a lot of that diffluent flow. Absolutely. Especially over Missouri. And Missouri is the area that looks to me as if this could be a pretty nasty situation. Notice how we have winds kind of spreading out in all of these different directions. So basically, these areas are in a nasty area. Arkansas could also be into those could be into the area where things could get pretty nasty. Moving onward here, there goes the line of storms, and you can sort of see that flow gets a little bit less noticeable as we get more of a defined line. Again, there could be a few scattered tornadoes, but for the most part, this thing gets mainly It mainly finishes up as this storm starts, as we get a kind of a secondary that forms here. Now, and again, looking at the instability, you can see the instability is really nice. You have some really nice instability coming in here into the mid sections of the country. And again, but just look at that. I mean, this is some serious stuff here. I mean, very nice instability coming in here, especially Missouri, Arkansas, and Texas. So that's again really where the heart of the severe weather will be. Now, things are going to kind of transition from severe weather over to a potential coastal low. Now, at first it was looking like this thing would become a potential snowy event for folks in interior sections of the Northeast. However, as we analyze this thing a little bit more closely, all right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the surface map here, and I'm also going to bring up the 850 millibar temperatures. This is basically temperatures, the upper levels of the atmosphere. All right. So here we go. All right. And again, you really want to. Oh, why did I do that? Okay. Sorry about that. All right. So here we go. All right. Basically, here is the situation. All right. This is around the time period where we start to see that surface low starting to form. Okay. So this is when things transition from major severe weather to a coastal. Now, this is the reason why I'm really thinking that this thing is going to be rain. This is hour 102. Notice the temperatures as far as your temperatures in the upper levels of the atmosphere. Very, very warm. Very warm. All right, this is too warm for snow. All right. The areas that are optimal at this particular point, I actually think they'd be something like this. These are your areas that are optimal for snow at this particular point, actually not even coastal Maine. All right. These are your areas that are really optimal as far as temperatures go in the upper levels for snow. All right. These regions in here are really not supportive. Definitely not in here. Absolutely not. There is no way. All right. Now, that's at hour 102. Here is 108. And notice how this starts moving even more to the north. Now, I do still think that there will be snow in the Berkshires. I do think it'll be in here. And I still think it'll kind of come up like this. But for the most part, all right, this is into the higher elevations away from your major cities and your populated areas. Okay? So this would suggest to me that this is going to be an all-rain event. Okay? That's hour 114, and then the storm exits out. So as you start really looking at this at a more closer level here, you really start seeing that this is not going to be a snow event, and therefore when you look at these at this particular snow map here, some people may say, oh my god, snow. All right, this is again the snow map that's being put out by the Euro, but this is actually really only the areas in here would be favorable for any snow. Okay, and again, this also doesn't take into account elevation. And if you were to look at the actual model image from Weather Bell, all of these areas have no snow. And the only areas in Michigan that show snow are basically these areas in here. All of these areas, nothing. So that is what I'm looking at as far as snow goes with this particular storm. And and actually it wasn't even the Euro that really convinced me about this. It was actually the Euro ensembles. And so let's look at the Euro ensembles, all right? Because this is interesting, all right? So here is our low pressure system. Okay, this is our main low pressure back out in here. We have a secondary back out in here over basically, it looks like Washington, D.C. Now, we do also have some warm air advection that's able to kind of cut through this second system in here. So that's basically the main reason why we're not going to be able to see a major snow event with this. Okay, now, moving onward here, this is basically our 108, and you can see that this low pressure up in here just north of Michigan is really deepening into something pretty strong. This in here is kind of, it's not that strong, but it's got a lot of precip with it. But remember, we have to also look at 850 millibar temperatures. Okay, so between hour 102, let's look at hour 102 and look at this. I mean, this is not optimal for any snow. I mean, it may be pretty nice here into the Berkshires and northern Worcester County, but it's really optimal once you get into northern New England. And even moving onward, all right, this is hour 108, and it just is not optimal whatsoever in through these areas. I mean, it's not until you get into the higher elevations of the Berkshires, again, northern Worcester County, and areas away from coastal Maine that you really start seeing some good stuff. Okay, so that's really where things are going to get itself going, is up into these regions. And even still at hour 114, this is again the look at hour 114, and you can see this is a nice 40-70 benchmark storm. So if this was in the if this was in the winter, this would have been a major snowstorm for everybody. Okay, this would have been major. But this is the spring, and unfortunately, and even if this was about a week or two ago, this would have been major. All right, but the temperatures here in the upper levels are not cool enough. Temperatures at the surface are okay, but at the upper levels, no, they're not supportive. Okay, they are not supportive whatsoever. So that's basically what's the situation here. This is going to be a very chilly rain. All right, now these folks in here, definitely a major snowstorm, even down again into the Berkshires, up into here and up in here and things like that. But other than that, okay, you are not going to see any snow outside of those regions. Okay, it's going to be rain. And that, my friends, is what convinced me to say, hey, this is going to be mainly a rainstorm with snow into the northern portions of New England. So this is my thoughts. All right, so it has obviously changed quite a bit. Okay, and I tried to compensate for elevation as much as I can. You can see this is the Champlain River Valley, getting a little bit less snow into those regions, maybe a coat into a few inches of snow. Okay, you're talking about the potentials to see in through a good chunk of Vermont and portions of upstate New York to potentially see 4 to 10 inches of snow. Extreme northern Worcester County, as well as portions of central New Hampshire, may see 4 to potentially as much as 6, locally 8 inches of snow. Localized areas seeing 10 into this dark blue area. Then you talk about this purple area, and things get a little bit more interesting. And mainly, most of these areas are over 1,000 feet in elevation, and that is where we'll potentially be talking about the potentials to see 6 to 12, maybe even locally 15 or 18 inches of snow, basically, especially into these areas of New Hampshire, where we could be talking about that's the highest risk area of potentially to see some good amounts of snow. So the Mount Washington River Valley. Other than that, coastal Maine, coastal New Hampshire, Massachusetts, working your way on down into New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia, no snow whatsoever. Heavy rain, potentials to see some thunderstorms. All right, and then of course you see this kind of lighter red area. This is where we could be potentially talking about some strong storms. The potentials to see some gusty winds into these areas, and the potentials to see maybe some hail and things like that. And then into this darker red area, this is really where things get very interesting. really where we could be potentially talking about some isolated tornadoes and some hail and some damage and winds. So watch out for that, especially in through these areas. This is really where the threat it would be the highest. So southern Ohio, northern Kentucky, southern West Virginia. But other than that, I think we're going to be mainly talking about a very chilly rain for most of the region. However, if the Euro or if the GFS is right with the storm kind of cutting up like this, well then these folks in here and down in here and all of these areas might be actually seeing a warm rain. So we will have to see what happens. And again, things could update over the next couple of days, but for the most part, that's what I'm thinking will happen. And you know, overall, nothing much is really changing much. I mean, the major change is that mainly elevations will be seeing this, and that's after I did a little bit more of a in-depth analysis on the models. Okay, folks, that is what it's looking like right now. I hope you all, and again, I know I put out a video earlier. I erased that one because, again, of my new findings from the models. So I hope you all, so this is my official video for today. I'll be back tomorrow with another update. But for now, this is Student Forecaster Stephen Boyle for Northeast Weather Center. Have a great rest of your day.